Hey, what's going on, guys? In this video today, we are going to be solving the age-old question: what is the best input, mouse and keyboard, or controller for Fortnite? Now today, we are going to be breaking each category down into the three main mechanical strengths in Fortnite. Those are building, editing, and aim. And to be honest, there is no real clear winner. Each input has its own pros and cons. Epic has really tried hard to find a good balance between aim assist. If you remember back to Chapter 2, Season 2, when we probably had the most out of balanced aim assist strength, since then, Epic has tweaked aim assist to the level we are at today, which is probably its weakest state in recent memory. So let's get right into it. The first topic I wanted to talk about today was aim. Now, besides improving your general crosshair placement, aim is a lot easier to train on keyboard and mouse. I'm sure you've heard of Kovacs before, as it is probably the greatest way to train your aim while playing with a mouse. I think the best part about Kovacs is being able to track your scores and progress so you can see the improvement with the data. Training your aim on a controller has definitely gotten a lot easier with the updates to Creative. There are a lot of aim training courses now that will give you similar results to Kovacs, and these maps are suited for both mouse and keyboard and controller. Because of the stat tracking on Kovacs, I do think there is an added aspect which makes it more enjoyable. If you know your current best record and can work to beat it, you have a tangible goal and target to hit instead of just playing creative practice maps. I do think keyboard and mouse have a real advantage when it comes to aim training. I think playing with a controller, though, allows you to play more smoothly just due to the joysticks. You won't need to flick your wrist or do any crazy movements to hit flick shots. While flick shots aren't a strength for controller players, the smoothness of using a joystick make it easier to play smoothly and slowly, especially in battles. I think the most difficult part about playing on a controller in regards to aim is getting used to the high sensitivity needed to match mouse and keyboard players. How often do you run into someone jumping over you while playing with a mouse and keyboard, and you can flick and move your view quickly, but playing on a normal controller with normal controller sensitivity, you can't make those adjustments as fast. That's why pro controller players like Reet have high sensitivity so they can flick and be a little bit more twitchy in fights. Now, I think an unspoken topic that most people leave out of this debate is price. Mouse and keyboards will usually last a lot longer because of their design. I think controllers' biggest strength in their joysticks is also what causes the most headaches. In order for controllers to be usable, they have to have good balance between the mechanisms inside it. Now, controllers are very prone to stick drift, and that's probably, the biggest red flag for any controller player out there is stick drift. Now, I used to use an Astro C40, and now I play on a PlayStation Elite controller, and both controllers allow you to manually swap out the joysticks and put in fresh ones, so you never have to buy a new controller when you experience stick drift. So the new joysticks are around $20, and that's a lot cheaper than needing to go buy a new controller every time you have a little bit of stick drift. Now, the next part we're going to be talking about is building. I think this is where the conversation starts to shift a little bit. With aim, you could see how both the pros and the negatives about playing with either input. When it comes to building, mouse and keyboard players will always be at a major advantage. You can place builds quicker, there are a lot more buttons at your disposal. From a pro player perspective, double claw on a PS4 controller is probably the closest that you can get to a mouse and keyboard player. Playing double claw allows you to have the same amount of buttons as a mouse and keyboard player will, and ensures you can hit multiple buttons at one time. The amount of people who can master double claw is very low though. It takes a lot of time and skill, and if you're going to go through the trouble of learning double claw, you're probably just better off switching to mouse and keyboard anyway. Either way, if you play on a controller with 2 or 4 paddles, you're at a disadvantage versus mouse and keyboard players, and even those who play claw. And for our last spot, we're going to be talking about is the editing. I think this is an area Fortnite has actually done a really good job closing the skill gap between mouse and keyboard and controller players. Before, when mouse and keyboard players had scroll wheel reset, while controller players were still using the same bind for building and editing, controller was at a major disadvantage. Now, over the years, mechanics have been added into the game to help bridge that skill gap. Edit and reset on release on controller has been huge for allowing controller players to edit almost as fast as mouse and keyboard players. This is an area that will take practice no matter what input you're playing with, and I don't see a huge gap anymore between these inputs when it comes to editing. And now with that, we're going to wrap up. A like is always appreciated. Please subscribe and let me know down in the comments if you play on keyboard and mouse or on a controller, and which input do you think is best. And I will catch you guys next time.